What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 92 of Nintendo Noise, Slipscreen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always by my partner in Nintendo-related crimes, Mr. Stephen Radford.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Steve. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
You know, I'm not gonna lie to you. This morning, a bit of a mixed bag, right? But I'm very excited to be here talking about Tears of the Kingdom with you. I got a flat tire this morning. It put me in a little bit of a sour mood. I'm not gonna lie to you, but knowing that we are coming here to talk about which what may be my favorite game of all time now,
Wow.
got me in a pretty good mood.
What was your previous favorite game of all time? Was it Breath of the Wild? Because if it was, then it's no real surprise that Tears of the Kingdom has usurped that.
It's one of those things where I don't know, right? Because like I've been thinking a lot about what my top 10 games are, what my top 100 games are
Mm.
after that whole GQ top.
Number one, Tetris,
Of course,
obviously.
of course. Well, that's on
Or
yours, sure.
Pac-Man. I love Pac-Man too.
Pac-Man, not even on the list, not even on the top 100.
Outrageous. Have you seen
Outrageous.
that new Pac-Man Lego set? Total tangent, but I need that
Does look pretty
Pac-Man
cool.
Lego set.
So I've been thinking about it a lot, and I think the question is loaded based on how you ask it. Right? So it's like your favorite game of all time, your best game of all time. Those are different questions, right? I think the answer would change depending on the day, unless I really sat
Yeah.
down and committed to making the list, which I think I want to do now. But the more I
We
play
we
this
should do
game,
like I think we should do it. I think as flip screen, we should all kind of have I don't know, a list. Maybe like one list for flip screen of what we
yeah,
consider like 10 games that we feel like you should play that
mhm,
I actually think will acclimatize you to what our tastes are. So like
that'd be
if you
interesting.
align with our tastes, this is kind of a good like little
These are
pick a
games you got to
mix of
try.
what games you should try. And I think they can change all the time. Like well, I'd probably take Breath of the Wild out and put Tears of the Kingdom on there instead.
Yeah, yeah, and like it should be evolving, right? That's your 10 favorite games should be a living document. But I want to do it. I want to do a personal 100. And if you want to do that too, like anybody in the team who wants to do it, I think we should. Because I think 100's a more interesting exercise.
It's
It's
really
longer, right? Like,
difficult. It's
what's your
really
100th
difficult.
favorite game is a way harder question. But I say all this to say that the more I play Tears of the Kingdom, right? Like, the more I do have that, like, yeah, like this might be my favorite game now. And I don't know that I would have said Breath of the Wild was, but I think the thing I always said about Breath of the Wild is I think if you asked me to say what is like the best example I can give of a 10 out of 10 video game of like a nearly perfect video game, I think I would have said Breath of the Wild, and I think this game is better and by a pretty significant margin. So, what does that say then?
So does that make Breath of the Wild no longer perfect? Does it readjust the scores and how that
No,
game is in your mind now?
to me it doesn't lessen the impact or the strengths of Breath of the Wild. It's more that this game found a way to iterate on that formula in a way that was meaningful and add things that were really additive to what already felt nearly perfect versus I think there are a lot of sequels where you get that kind of it's more of the same, or you get the situation that you and I described with like a Far Cry 6 where it's like you've hit a point where it's diminishing returns. You're adding more systems on and they're
Yeah.
not making things better, they're making it less refined, they're making it less enjoyable. This game is, I think, the exact opposite, right? It's like you got the bones of Breath of the Wild, and they took 6 years iterating and filling out the map and evolving things and building new systems. And all of that is so satisfying. And I think it really sings in a way that is tough to live up to. And that doesn't make it's like, to me, right? It's like how I feel about like one of my favorite bands making music right now is this band Pup, right? And the first album that they put out that I got into was called The Dream Is Over. And the album after that is called Morbid Stuff. And that first album was like my favorite album until the new one came out. And it's like, holy shit, even better. Like, and that doesn't mean that the other one isn't a 10 out of 10. That doesn't mean it's not a 9 out of 10. It doesn't mean it's not a banger. It's just, damn, like you guys found yet another gear here to shift it into. And that's how I'm
I
feeling
get
about
what
this
you're
game,
saying,
you know?
but I get what you're saying, but I feel like because this was so additive and I think fleshed out ideas they had for Breath of the Wild that necessarily weren't it didn't come it didn't like come to what it could have been, right, with Breath of the Wild. I think the ideas that we got here, it seems like, it's ideas that they had where in Breath of the Wild you had like I think it's called cryo, where you can like freeze things. Well, in Tears of the Kingdom, you can freeze things with objects in the world instead, and we don't have like the elemental arrows, and we take kind of the magnesis and we take it to like the next level by being able to merge items together and then move those things around. But I think for me the biggest change that I've noticed in Tears of the Kingdom is just how I think traversal is just more fun. Like climbing up things was always great in Breath of the Wild, and I think that was kind of, one of the evolutionary things that it did, or maybe revolutionary
I
things that
think
it
that was
did, that
one of
you
the
can
defining features of that
yeah, that
game.
you
Yeah,
can
for sure.
climb up anything, and you can kind of jump off the towers that you've explored, and, like, you can use the paraglider and explore the place. I find myself not really wanting to climb in Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna see if I can navigate this by using Ascend." And there's, like, a space where they've clearly been building out the map or building out the area, and it's just like, this was designed for this skill in mind, or they've put some planks of wood lying around that I can build, like, a staircase, or I can throw it up into the air and then use recall and then, like, use that as, like, a fucking lift to take me up to where I wanna be.
Dude, I saw somebody my friend M sent me a TikTok of somebody who there's a way that you can if you throw an item and then catch it with Ultra Hand and then attach it to something and then use recall, you can use it to fling yourself up in the air. It's like insane.
It's,
Just the
crazy, isn't
level
it?
of
Yeah.
shit you can do by chaining powers together and there's just so many things that I think you could play this game for 70, 80 hours and like not understand the physics, really, you know?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Like, so, someone was watching me play it yesterday and was like the one thing that they were really annoyed at was that I was diving down and I landed from what must have been like 100,000 feet into a pool of water. They're like, "Well, that's not realistic, you die." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, that's the one thing, not that I'm sticking these items together and I'm, like, navigating the world with
I hate
fucking."
when people say that things are not realistic. That is like the least interesting comment you can offer about something that is fantasy. Of like it's like, yeah, oh, it's not realistic. Yeah, duh. This is a world where magic exists. Like,
It's like I'm literally attaching fruit, ice fruit to a fucking sword, and then now all of a sudden I can like freeze the water. That doesn't happen in real life,
yeah,
but
yeah.
that's
It's like
fine.
lemons don't electrocute people in real life either, right? Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm excited to keep the conversation about Tears of the Kingdom rolling this week, and folks in the community seem to be too. We got a lot of people writing in on last week's show that they were appreciating the coverage, and I just wanted to just share some people's thoughts. But I do want to start with a question from Andrew Valentine, who wrote in over on Discord, just like you can, and said, "Can you recall any game launch that seems to have brought gamers together like this, or one that's generated as much pure, uncynical excitement?" And we talked about this a little bit last week, where I think games like this are really rare; they're few and far between. I think the last game that really felt like this for me was Breath of the Wild. You know? I guess maybe Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I kind of also feel that Elden Ring did to some extent, but I also think it depends what circles you're in, right? I've seen a
Yeah.
lot of people cynical about Tears of the Kingdom online and talking about how it is just DLC for Breath of the Wild and it's not adding enough to make it a
They're not playing
full
the video game.
$70
I don't
game.
believe that you're playing the game if that's your
No,
opinion.
I
I really
don't, but
don't.
I feel like I saw similar things with Elden Ring, right? That, "Oh, I hate these FromSoft games. They're not really like I don't understand how anyone can say that this is, like, revolutionary and, like, I don't get it." I was one of those people, right? And then you were one of those people, yeah.
Still one of those people.
But, like, I feel like there's always cynics around, and it depends what circles you
Yeah.
kind of are within. But I think maybe Animal Crossing was the last kind of special game. I think you're probably right about
Yeah.
that. And I think that came because of the time, right? We were all going into lockdown, and it was like, this is the one thing that's kind of keeping us through, and we're kind of able to come together and visit people and do things that we couldn't do. And it had a moment, right? There was
Yeah.
like politicians doing interviews in it, like AOC was going
Yeah,
around
it
and
was,
like
Gary
revisiting these
Whitta
islands.
was doing animal talking and
Yeah, there was
everything.
like, you know, Elijah Wood was showing up and, like, doing trade deals with people through, like, Nookazon, like, we had all of these, like, things happening. So I
Yeah.
kind of feel that I feel like I actually feel like Animal Crossing kind of took it to another level by, like, having these things that were developed within weeks or months, like, "Oh, you wanna be able to trade things? Well, let's use Nook Miles tickets as kind of a pseudo currency where you can then trade online and go over to the people's islands and, like, buy things or, like, buy villagers to come to your island if you specifically want that. Whereas Tears of the Kingdom, I don't know. I think maybe part of it is because I don't think you can directly post videos to Twitter anymore, and I don't think that's through any
Yes,
fault
you
of.
can.
Oh, can you? Because
Yeah.
I can't connect my Twitter account to my Switch anymore. It wouldn't let me do it. Um, I don't know if that's because
What'd you do to your
Twitter's.
Twitter account?
I think it's Twitter's API. They've cut loads of things off. Like you can't do it on Xbox now either.
I mean, I like, dude, go look at my Twitter. Like, all my last several
Mm.
tweets are just
The only
clips.
way the only way I could do it is by saving it, using the phone, like,
Yeah,
QR
and doing the
thing, and then,
QR
like,
code.
saving them to my phone and then posting them.
Weird.
Um, but, I mean, I've been seeing people's clips on TikTok, on Instagram Reels, on Discord, like, they're everywhere. Everyone's posting about this game, everyone's talking about it,
Yeah.
and it is I learn something new every single time. Like,
Oh
every
yeah.
single time I see someone playing it, I'm just like, "Oh, shit, you can do that? You can, like, attach that to a sword and it does this?
I
I'm gonna
think
go try it."
And I think that's the thing that this game has over Animal Crossing, and like you said, Elden Ring. I think Elden Ring like had this energy, but I think Elden Ring is just less accessible, right? Like there are always going to be people that find the level of difficulty there, or again, like the way it conveys things to be obtuse or whatever, right? Because that's more my issue with it is I don't like the world or the way that it conveys story or how it communicates with the player. Um, Not so much the difficulty, but, like, there are a lot of people where they're like, "I don't wanna fight a boss for 4 hours," right? Or, like, "I'm not good enough at this." Whereas, like, you don't really have to be that good at Zelda to enjoy it or to, like, get things out of it. It's a really good first game, you know? Like, I have friends who are, like, new gamers, and they got in on Breath of the Wild, and now they're playing Tears of the Kingdom, and, you know, it does have that element to it, you know? And, like, I think the thing with Animal Crossing, right, is, like, there is that sense of, like, personal expression and like, oh, here's my town, here's my avatar, and these are the villagers that I like. And I think people like sharing that stuff. But I feel like this game is just so much more like it's filled to the brim with those water cooler moments because you and I could go to the same shrine and solve it in a totally different way. You know, I could
Yeah.
make a dumb mistake and have this funny death that I want to share, or you figure out this like physics thing that you share and it changes the way people think about the game or the way
I've
that they
been
play.
solving every puzzle by just building the most ridiculously long bridges, and I just, like, that's literally how I solve it. There was this one section, I don't know if you found these guys yet, and they're the treasure hunters, and they just, like, they're around the place, and they're, like,
Yeah, and they're
looking
like,
for
"Oh,
the
we can't get that thing over
yeah, we
there." And
can't
I'm
get
like,
that
"All
that
right."
every single one of them, I'm just like, "Let me just get some more wood," or I'll, like, freeze a bit of the water, and then I'll use that to make a bridge, and I just make, like, just the biggest fucking bridge, and then I, like, like, walk all the way over there, and I get it, and they're just, like, always annoyed with me. But that's how I'm solving most of the puzzles, just by building these just mega bridges.
That seems to be how a lot of people are solving problems. I don't do that often. I feel like more often I build a machine. I'm like, "Let me build my insanely specific Rube Goldberg machine for
Oh,
this one problem," of like
I ran out of fans yesterday, and I don't know how. I had loads of fans
I have
in my inventory.
hoarded that stuff. I like every
Yeah.
time I come up to them, I'm like, "Let me throw 30 in and get as many as I can carry," and like, "All right,
Well,
keep
not
going."
every single machine seems to give you the same
No, they all
stuff.
have different ones.
Yeah, so I went to one and I was doing that, and it gave me, like, the driving podium and a bunch of other things.
If you don't know, on your map, if you ever hover over one of them, it will tell you which ones it has.
Oh, interesting, right,
So,
I
yeah, if
need to
there's
go and
like
do
if you're
that.
like, "Oh, I need a rocket, I need this," like, you just wanna go to one that
Yeah.
has it, and you'll get the drop.
I haven't spent much time in the sky when we spoke last week. Like,
That's where you're gonna find most
I
of
was all
the
down in I was down in Hyrule, just on the kind of mainland. I've done the I've started doing the underground stuff, where you
Mhm.
gotta follow the big statues. So I've
Yeah.
started doing that one.
Oh,
And then
let me I wanna tell everybody a tip that I have, all right? So my dear friend M has been playing and has been spending a lot of their time in the underground, and they were telling me all of the like the lights that you need to find underground to expand the map,
The glow
the
roots,
glow
yeah.
rooms, all of those are underneath shrines. So if you're ever like, "Oh, like where is the next one I'm trying to find?" and you can't see it, if you look at the overworld map and you have a shrine, you can find where the closest one is to you
Oh,
based on that.
interesting, I didn't know that, that's really
And
cool.
I didn't notice that. And all of their names are the name of the shrine that they're underneath backwards.
Oh, that's so cool.
I was
That
like,
is
"What are
so
you
cool.
kidding me? I had no idea. That's incredible." Because I keep going down and being like, "Oh, I gotta find one of these shrines so that I can come back here." And I just never find one, right? And it's like, all right, I'll leave and I'll come back and whatever. Um,
Yeah.
I think that's gonna make
I
traversing
wish
that area a lot more simple.
I wish you could ascend out of there, like, that's one thing I kind of you have to fast travel out, there's no way
Yeah.
there's one place you can ascend out of that I found, um, and then I died pretty much instantly after that because there was some big monster.
I do wish Ascend went a little higher. I think that's like my one gripe with it is sometimes I'll be under something and it's like, like it doesn't like reach the it's like, come on, like you know what I'm trying to do, like let me
Yeah.
go, but I get it.
But I kind of feel like I want the extra reach on all of them, like, I wanna be able to recall a little bit more
I want to
rather
be able to
like, I
grab
want
things
it
with
to
Ultra
last a
Hand a
bit
little
longer.
bit further
Yes.
away. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm with you on that. But it is funny because like it ends up just like leading to some of the funniest moments. Like if you go on my Twitter, I shared this video of like me trying to solve a Korok puzzle, and I'm doing it in like the most obtuse way possible, where like I had a snowball that I stacked wood on top of and then connected the Korok, and it was still not long enough. So I took out a pole arm and I stuck the pole arm on the Korok, and then I was able to lift the whole thing just by that. And then I got it up and it like fell over on itself and collapsed. And then I used recall and wrote it back up to where I had gotten it up to. And like you have so many fun moments just by like fighting the physics and being like, oh, I know what I want to do. And how can I cheese it? How can I, get to that moment where it'll just let me
Yeah.
do the damn thing? And it always ends up being satisfying. Um,
Yeah.
but speaking of satisfying, I want to bring in a comment here, two comments from Left Eye Lazy, one of our Discord members, who wrote in on the 18th, right after our last episode, and said, really enjoying the coverage of this game, guys. It does feel like it has the same energy as Elden Ring, and I loved that because it reminded me of how much fun this community was having with games during the pandemic. Consider me sold, which I think ties into that last question, right? And then here we are on the 21st, a couple days later. Left Eye Lazy wrote in again and said, bought it from your recommendation, only a little bit into it, but I'm enjoying myself. I think the 60 hours of Elden Ring made me appreciate an open world more, and I'm enjoying myself. Makes me really reconsider how unkind I was to my playthrough of Breath of the Wild. I was so ready to be blown away that I didn't let myself appreciate it as much. Played based on tips from others rather than letting myself learn what to do. And I love
Oh,
that. I'm really glad you're enjoying this game this time around, and I think that's a huge part of it, right? Is that sense of like you need to be able to just get lost in it and like let yourself find the fun and not try to play based on how other people play or how you feel like you're quote unquote supposed to be playing. It's like you got to just figure out what the carrot is for you and then chase it.
I don't think there's any right way to play these games, really. Like, I went and did one of the temples, and I wanna talk to your experience about that, but maybe after the kind of mid-breaks. I know there's probably gonna be some spoilers in there.
True.
Um, and I did that one temple, and I was like, I was gonna go do another one. I was gonna go do the one in Goron, and I was just like, "You know
I
what? I
still
think I
haven't
just
been
wanna
over there yet.
yeah, I just wanna run around and, like, explore a little bit more, and the Goron storyline's really cool. I've been to Hateno now, like, there's a really cool storyline there. I don't know if you've
I
been
haven't been there
down
yet.
there.
I've been to what's the other one? Kakariko already, but I haven't been to Hateno yet.
Kakariko's cool, yeah. Oh, Hateno's so cool. You've gotta go do that storyline. There's like a mayoral election going on, and you've kind of gotta pick a side and,
Okay.
like
I know there's like
like
a whole like
yeah.
there's like the whole like it's become like a fashion center
Yeah, yeah,
and
so, like, yeah,
everything, and I've
it's
been
like the
hearing about it, but I haven't made my way over there yet.
kinda like the old guard versus the kind of new fashionistas, that are there, and whether
Yeah.
you wanna pick a side as to how you want it to be.
I met a character who was saying like, "Oh, it used to be this farming village and now it's becoming this and there's this like culture clash that's going on and everything." I was like, "Oh, interesting." Like I think that's the biggest thing for me is just how much the story in this is so much better. It's so much more involved and like I love
There's so many
how
like, the side quests are actually involved and interesting,
yeah,
unlike what they were before, which was just collect this many things and bring them back, and it's
yeah.
like,
It's interesting though because I think like we talked about this a little bit last week, but I feel it so much more the more I play, which is just this is one of the best examples of a sequel that I've ever seen, where like it really takes advantage of being a sequel. Of like I feel like so many of the side quests and stuff are as interesting as they are because you already have an understanding of the world and who the players are from the last game, which I love. It really does give you this sense of like growth and development of the world, and like it gives me a
mhm.
sense of emotional investment that I didn't have last time because it's like I know these people, I helped them, right? Like, I helped this town get built and now it's all messed up. I want to come back and help, and you feel like you have a little more skin in the game.
Yeah. Well, there's so there's also just, like, there's so many, like, I felt just different things and, like, different it felt like there was just one funnel to go down in Breath of the Wild, and this I can go off on so many different tangents, and like I go somewhere with like an idea in mind in what I'm gonna do. So I was in Goron, and I'm like, I'm gonna go towards the tower, and I'm gonna unlock that, and then I ended up in Tarry Town, and there's like 3 or 4 different things to do there, and I'm like, okay, um, I'm gonna go do this, and then while I'm in the middle of doing that, I find a shrine, and then like you just end up going off on all of these tangents, and I've got so many like side quests I've started and not finished, and I need to
That's
go back to, or
that's
like
been my
shrine
entire
quests I need to do.
experience with the game. Like the last session I was playing,
Oh
I
man,
went
it must be
to
like an ADHD nightmare for you. Like, what's that over there? What's that over there?
it's like it's so interesting because it's like I feel like the games like this are where I get to just like let my ADHD brain like run wild, because it's like because if I get distracted, it's like whatever. There's a quest log, like I'll pick it back up
Yeah,
late, like it's whatever. It's not like real life where if you forget something, it's like oh I didn't pay the bills, I didn't do this. Oh no, it's more just
was
like whatever. Like I can really like let my crow brain just go wild and just be like that's shiny. Let's run over there. Let's see what's going on here. Because
was
I
that one
had
of
an
your issues
experience the
with like
last
Elden Ring? Wasn't it like there was no quest log?
that is a part of it is that like I find that annoying, right? Where it's like I think this game is a good example of how to let players off the leash in a way that feels good. And I think Elden Ring is like the exact opposite, where like I find it to be obtuse because it's so like I don't know. It's tough because I can understand why people like that and have the whole like, oh, it's just like playing Legend of Zelda back on the NES, and you didn't know when you had a notebook, and like it's very romantic. It's this romantic like, oh, it's you're really in on this adventure or whatever. And it's like it just reminds me of the way that people will joke about like art house movies, where they're like, some of us have to get up for work in the morning, and it's like that's how I feel about Elden Ring, where it's like I don't think the gameplay is very engaging. I don't like the world. Like the aesthetic and like the tone of the world are not interesting to me. So it's very much like
You're
I
not
don't
into curled fingers
I'm
and
not into
weird
I'm
little
not into
hands.
hand monsters and weird fingers. That's not really my jam. And yeah, it just there's nothing about it that speaks to me on its face. And that sense of like go get lost is like, okay, but I am lost, right? Whereas like with Tears of the Kingdom, I think so much of the fun is being like, okay, I'm gonna go do this and we'll see what happens. Right? Whatever comes up, whatever I come across, cool. Like all good. And having the ability to have like a really advanced tagging system. I know that's something that I've taken really huge advantage of. Where like if I'm out in the overworld and I find an NPC that has like a quest or a thing and I don't want to do it right now, I tag them, I put the little person icon next to him. If I run into a
That
monster
actually
or a
got patched
boss,
in that got patched into Elden Ring. Like, you can
yeah, I know
add
that they
things on the
eventually
map.
added that because they were supposed to, and of course,
Yeah.
all the fans said that it was a feature that it didn't have it. So that's a whole other conversation. But that it just works for me. And like I enjoy the world more, right? Like I like the personality of Tears of the Kingdom. And it is like just so rewarding to get lost, and like I was trying to say this, we keep getting excited and going down a tangent. The last time I was playing, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the castle town. I'm gonna specifically, go and upgrade my storage for my device, for like my weapons and stuff. And I'm gonna go hunt for shrines so that I can max out my stamina. That's what I'm gonna do tonight. I did neither of those things because as soon as I
Mhm.
got to where I was going to go and expand all of my inventory, I there and I don't want to spoil what happens, right? But there was an event that took place, and they were like, "Oh, this like secret passage opened up," and I was like, "Oh, cool. Let me go see what's down there. I bet you there's an item or a boss fight or something like that." And then I was down there for like an hour, and I'm like still down there, and I am only like I think halfway through the cave, and I'm like, "Holy shit! Like how does this just keep going?" And it just does. That's
Oh, yeah. Did you have the event in the emergency shelter yet? I don't know if you've kept going back there, where there's, like, a hole in the wall.
that's exactly what I'm talking about. Actually, it was
Yeah,
that event.
it's so cool, and I
How
was like
insane is that? That cave is it's so detailed. There's so much stuff down there.
Yeah, it's so cool.
And it's
Like,
just this
yeah.
little side thing, like, right? Like it's not a
Yeah, it's just this, like, this, like, person thinks they're going crazy or they've done something wrong because 'cause they've, like, broken the wall or whatever, and it's just like, "Oh, I guess see what's down here then."
and I love that, and like I've had multiple moments like that. Like I had a moment, you know how there's like a well at every horse stable?
Mhm.
I jumped down one and it just kept going and going. And when it finally spit me out, I was at the coast. Like I was like I had gone across the map. I was like, what the
Oh, that's so
That's so
cool.
cool. Like this, like I just went under half not a whole continent, like one of the
One of the
segments.
areas, yeah.
Yeah, like it was, but like again, this is like in the mid, like the stable is maybe in the middle of that part of the map, and it got me the entire half down to the coast and spit me out in this like secret little cove, and I was like, oh my god, this is so awesome. And I just love that, like that is the fun of the game. I think is just like you know, um, just chasing the high and whatever that is, right? And it ends up being really great because it also lets the game meet you where you're at energy wise, right? Where it's like when I'm okay, I'm gonna sit down and I want to play this game for a few hours. Maybe I go advance the story, maybe I'll go and chase some of the memories. I'll do the stuff that I want to watch on the big screen. I want to be fully engaged in it. And then if it is like, well, I'm getting tired. I kind of want to play this while I watch reruns of Community or whatever in the background. I'll go do some shrines, or I'll go and I'll expand the next tower on the map, or I'll go do some of the chill stuff. I'll go cook some food. I'll go expand my inventory. And that I can do, with headphones on, headphones off. I can have the sound on, whatever, right, and just do your thing. And I appreciate that whether I've got 5 minutes or 5 hours to give to the game, it's easy for me to do something and be like, cool, like I advanced, I did something, you know?
Yeah, I think I haven't had much time this last week, to play it as much as I wanted to. So, I've been doing a lot more of the just running around and exploring and finding new things. And like, my goal has been I want to unlock the whole map, and I want to be able to have all of the towers unlocked so I can just navigate around and go from place to place, so they can kind of fire me up into the air and I can traverse a lot easier. So that's what I've been aiming to do, but I've been very unsuccessful with that. Like I said, I get distracted every single time I go to do one. I find something in that new region that I'm in and want to go there instead.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of it too is just like how dense the map is. Cause like I'll go to a place being like, oh, like I heard there's a thing here, or there was a thing here in the first game. So let me go here and like check it out. And without fail, that one thing turns into three things, turns into four things, right? Like I found a stable, right? That one I was just talking about, the one that had the really long tunnel. And while I was there, it was like there's a side quest for the paper, there's a horse race, there's a Korok uh challenge, there's another side mission that gets triggered if you're there at night, and then there's the well, right? So it's like this place that I thought was a waypoint that I was hitting for a second to be like, let me get my pony points, let me take a nap, and then I'll go back out. And I got wrapped up in five different side quests and was like, well, there's my night. Like that was all the time I had to play, and I just did all this shit. And I love
Hmm.
that about it. I love that there's so much thought into each area, and each thing feels really, you can feel the personal hand of like, oh, like you're going to see this thing and it's going to trigger this thought and you're going to react to it this way, or, you're going to solve this puzzle, or, and that is just so infectious. And it I think makes it such a fun game to play, but it makes it fun to talk about. It makes it fun to watch other people play things you've already done and be like, "Oh, I did it like this. You're doing it like that. Like what the hell?" That it just lends itself to that schoolyard conversation of, "Have you been here? Have you tried that? Have you done this? Did you get this item yet? Have you done this fusion?" Like, and it's just it's tough to beat, man. It's really tough to beat.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. It's very infectious.
So I want to get into a bit more general discussion. We got a good question here from Trendy Brenny that's going to kick us off. But before that, let me remind you that this episode of Nintendo Noise is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of May. They are, of course, Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valenz, Earth Visitor, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, aka Sobi, Snacky Go, Ty the Dude, and Waka Hula. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. You are the realest of the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. Remember, if you want to show your support, head over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you can go and find our Patreon. You can get the show early. You can get all kinds of good perks and goodies, get your name read on the air, just like our producers did. Or guess what? There's no money to toss our way. There's a bunch of ways that you can go and get involved for free. You can come join the Discord and write into the show, just like everyone did for our question block segment. You can go and check out some of our sister shows. You got the Flip Screen Games podcast where we kind of talk about, everything else going on in gaming that's not related to Nintendo. We've got the Steam Deck podcast. If you are a Steam Deck owner or just interested in handheld gaming or PC gaming, go check that stuff out. We'd really appreciate it if you'd go and show your support to all the cool stuff that we're doing all across the channel, the organization, however you want to put it. However you get involved. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nintendo Noise. And let's keep the Tears of the Kingdom conversation rolling. Trendy Brendy wrote in and said, so excited to hear about everyone's progress, but also interested in seeing where everyone sits at hours-wise since it's been 10 days since release. So I think here in this section, I'd love to just be like a little more liberal with talking about stuff we've done. So
Mm.
if you are really like, I want to be totally blinders on, and not hear about anything I haven't seen myself, we're probably going to talk about the first temple a little bit, right? I think at this point, most folks have probably done the first temple, or you've been playing long enough that you don't care, right?
And by the first temple, you mean the one in Rito? Because we're doing
Yeah.
it in the one that's we've been nudged towards.
The suggested order, right?
Yeah.
Because my the way I've understand it, it seems as though the suggested order is Rito,
Garuda.
Goron,
Yeah,
no, Gerudo's last, right?
that's the
That's
last one.
that's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
hardest
yeah,
one, and then the
yeah.
Zora is the third one. So going in it with that expectation, that's kind of what we're thinking. So again, if you've not touched that content at all yet, we'll try to be, you know, as generous as we can, but we're gonna talk about it. So you've been warned. So hours wise, I think last time we spoke, I think I was at 20 to 30 hours. I definitely, like you, I had less time to game this week overall. So I think I probably put in maybe like another 15, 20 rather than 30. So I think I'm probably like at like maybe the 40, 45 mark now, but I
Oh
would definitely
god,
say under 50.
I wish I'm at 25 hours.
Those are rookie numbers, Steve. We gotta bump those up.
I've genuinely had no time, absolutely no time in order to just, like, commit and play
Guy's
video
out here
games.
baking cakes, going to the beach,
Mm.
he's
No beach, sadly, no beach, but yeah,
killing time
cakes.
out in the physical world. Unbelievable. Chewy said something in our Discord where he was like, my body is here, but my heart and soul are in Hyrule. And that's how it's been feeling these days, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I definitely have invested a good amount more time, but I think in that time, I really have not done anything of consequence. It has been just side quests and filling out the map and, you know, trying to max out my stamina bar and stuff like that. So I don't have a
Oh, well,
ton.
see, have you focused more on hearts then? Because 'Cause I've got 1 full ring of stamina, and then I think 5 or 6 hearts now?
I think I did. I want to say, because you start with 4 hearts, right?
3, isn't it?
Is it 3?
It's 3, you get 1 from a temple, and then I think I got 2 others.
Yeah, so I wanna say I did, like, 4 or 5 maybe in hearts, and then I switched totally to stamina, and right now I have
Oh, see, I actually I did the same as you, but I traded a heart for a stamina
I did that
second.
as well. Yeah.
I was like,
So
I'm running out of gas all the time. I'm running all over the place,
yeah,
and I'm
yeah.
getting bored of this. I was like, sod one of these hearts. I'm gonna trade it in.
Yeah, I did that too as soon as I had the opportunity to find that shrine again, I was
I
like, "Yeah,
really
bet,
like
cool."
that you can do that in this game. Like you couldn't do that in Breath of the Wild, from what
No,
I
you could.
remember.
No, you
Oh, I
could.
never found it then.
Yeah, no,
Never
no, it was
found
it
it.
was it was in,
The same place.
I wanna say it was in Kakariko or in Hiteno, it was, like, off on the side. Like, there's, like, a little kid that, like, brings you to it, I think, and then, like, that's how you find it originally. It's, like, near the town, but it's, like, right outside it, and it's, like, in this weird little
Oh,
corner. You
if
could
if
do
I
it,
did
though.
find it, I never did it because I probably found it too late in the game, and I was just like,
Yeah.
"There's no point at this point." But
So, yeah, I did that once, and I think because what? I think you can get 3 full stamina wheels is the thing?
you get
So
yeah, you can. You get it right at the beginning of the game, don't you? And it's like
right.
then it's like 20 hearts you get as well. It's a
Yeah.
ridiculous amount.
So yeah, so then if it is 3, then where I'm at is I have my original bar, I have 1 full additional bar, and then I have another 1 or 2, and I think it's 5 to fill it up. So I think I need to do like 12 to 14 more shrines to max it out, and then I'll be good. Um,
Yeah.
I might trade 1 more heart and see where I'm at, but I don't know. Like I'm pretty happy with where I'm at right now. So
I think as you go and as I've been going into some of the more difficult areas and like I just run into a boss, I need more hearts at this point. So I think that's where my focus is going back to.
So we're gonna talk more about Trendy Brendy's question of progress in a second here, but that takes us into a question from that Doc guy, one of our Patreon producers, who wrote in and said, "How do you feel about fusion being required for weapons? What's your favorite weapon combo you've made so far? Your wildest Ultra Hand combo, and how do you feel about the added difficulty compared to Breath of the Wild in terms of enemy aggression?" I will answer the first two in a minute. I want to touch on that last question about enemy aggression because you mentioned that. Personally, I like it. I remember feeling like the combat was like always like maybe a little too easy in the first game.
Well,
I
I
felt
think part of that was you had bombs and you had 2 bombs and you could just throw them at them or
yeah.
roll them downhill at all times.
And yeah, I always felt like it was pretty easy, right? Like even when I was underpowered, like I was able to use the bombs or take advantage of those other things to try to like, leverage my position a little bit. Whereas I feel like in this game there is a little bit more like the enemies are stronger, there's a little bit more pressure applied to you in situations where like I regularly find myself in a situation where it's like, okay, you're surrounded by black bokoblins, you're surrounded by silver bokoblins, and they all have different types of weapons. And, maybe one of them has bomb arrows or one of them has a fire blade or something. And like they have elemental attacks. They do gang up on you a little bit more. They're still dumb, like they're still dopey in the way that they are, right? But like there is, I think, more um not just aggression, but more strategy in the way that they approach you sometimes that I've found really rewarding. It's been cool to get in situations where I'm like, "Oh, I got this," and then I die because I'm overconfident,
Oh,
and then
I've
it's like,
had that way too many times, yeah.
"Okay, let me try this a little different way. Let me fuse this weapon. Let me add this thing and, like let me take advantage of like ice for crowd control or fire for an interrupt or an explosion to knock a couple of them in the water and thin out the herd, things
Or you
like
can
that."
electrocute them when they're in the water.
Yeah, that too. So yeah, like I like the added difficulty. I think it feels good for me. I like that it's a bit more challenging and that I end up in situations where I'm like, ooh, like I'm not strong enough for this. And it's like, do I want to bang my head against the wall and try to beat it and get that badge of honor of, oh, I beat it when I was low level and that was really cool? Or do I put my little skull icon on the map
And you
and we
go get
swing
some
back
more
later
hearts.
on?
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
what I've been doing 'cause, like, I've gone into them and I learned from Trendy Brandy that if you're at full health, they will never be able to kill you with one
You can't
whack,
get one-shotted, yeah.
which was great. I did not realize that because I was always, like, healing and, like, constantly healing and this and that, and you can't get like, I was focusing on hearts because I thought, "I need this many or I'm gonna get one shot killed," but you never will, which is great. But like I get down to that like quarter heart and it's blinking, and I'm like, I'm out of it. There's no point me just eating constantly to try and take on this ridiculously hard enemy. But I
Depends.
also forget when I'm in the heat of the moment about flurry rush, about parrying, about all of that stuff. Like, I'm just gonna go in guns
I'm
blazing with
garbage
the
at
arrows.
parrying. Like I like in a lot of games, I like if there is a parry, I'm not always the most likely to use it because it's like, I'll just dodge, whatever. I remember everybody was making fun of me when I was playing Elden Ring of like,
Yeah.
but parry, you're just dodge, you dodge like, and you're these dodges are clean. Don't get me wrong, but you're missing counter attack opportunities. That's just I'd rather play that way. I'd rather be agile and get around him and stab him in the back and
But I
stuff.
like that there is a solution to that kind of play style in this, in that you can just shove a flame on on your shield and burn the hell out of everyone if you want to.
Yeah, and to answer Doc's questions, that's still I think my favorite is putting the flame emitter on a shield is just it's endlessly hilarious and you know, it's funny, but it's also effective, and I appreciate
Usually,
that.
it like degrades your shield so quickly though. At least I've
Oh yeah.
found, like
Oh yeah.
it's like out within
I'm always
seconds.
breaking shields. I'm
Yeah,
always breaking shields. One of my
I
other favorite combos is I think it was IGN that shared it first, but it's the if you take a mine cart and you stick it on a shield, you can use it as a skateboard
oh,
and
that's cool.
endlessly entertaining. It's great for traversal, like getting down hills, you can just skate down and you go
I mean,
super
you
fast.
could do the shields.
Oh yeah,
What's it? Shield
but
surf
dude, it's
anyway.
so much better with wheels. Cause like,
Mm.
cause like with the shield stuff, right? You know how you'll hit those points sometimes where it's like you're going down a hill and then it plateaus and you lose your momentum and then you gotta hop off. With the wheels, you could keep going for a while if you're going fast enough. So I've had situations where it's like I'm going downhill, I hit a plateau, and I keep going, and then I get like one jump, and then I'm back at another, and then I'm still going downhill again, and you can kind of chain it that way. But you can also use it on like the rail. So any situation where it's like you're supposed to put a mine cart on a rail and ride it, you can just skate on the mine cart and use it that way. And you
Oh,
can
that's cool.
grind across stuff. And it's like, oh my God, what? Like it gives you so much versatility in terms of solving those puzzles and traversal, all that good stuff. Um, so that one's really cool. I think the Yeah, I don't know. I think that's some of the more interesting stuff. I think the like wildest one for me is still like putting the rocket on your shield and then using it to fly. That's awesome. It's again, it blows your shields up really quickly, but it is such a good traversal hack if you find yourself in a situation where it's like, fuck, I got to get up here and I'm too low and I can't use
Oh, it's
ascend
raining.
or it's raining and I can't climb
You
any of
know,
those things.
have you done the tower yet? Where it's raining and you've got to try and,
Cover all the
burn. Yeah, you
thorns.
gotta cover them all up so you can burn
Yeah.
them, and I was like, "Oh my god." I didn't even clock that I could, like, just create cover while I
So
was
the
out.
most the most embarrassing thing for me about that is how many times I came and left and then came back to that place because I'm like, fuck, it's raining every time I come here. And I was like, oh, this is a puzzle. This is a puzzle. Uh-oh.
Oh god.
Not
Yeah.
smart. Not my smartest moment.
I,
In
to answer, like, Doc's question about fusion being required for weapons, though, like, I think I'm fine with it. I think my issue is the the arrows is phenomenal. It's so quick, it's so easy. I can be holding the right trigger and I just press up on the D-pad and I select
I
what I
wish you
want.
could do that with your weapons.
With the weapons, it's so slow. I've got to like drop the item I want to fuse on the floor. Then I've got to go to fuse with the left bumper, make sure that's selected. Then I've got to press Y in order to fuse it to my sword or to whatever weapon I've got. And I always end up picking up pre-fused weapons, and then it moans at me that I can't like fuse it with it already because fuse has already been used on it, which just like is another step, and it just drives me crazy. It's
That's
like
another
another
thing
hurdle.
where it's like when that happens, I wish it would just be like, hey, do you wanna
Just
swap?
swap it. Just
Just give
swap
me
it.
a in the same way that they added that for, like, things in chests where it's like, "Do you wanna drop an item so you can take this?" Like, I wish it would just be like, "Hey, like, you already have a rock fuse to this. You wanna destroy the rock and do this thing instead?" Like,
Yeah, because
just
I ended up at one point where, like, pretty much every weapon was just rocks, because that's all I was picking up, and they were
yeah.
already, like, pre-fused with rocks, and I'm like, "I really want something else." I mean, I've got one at the moment that's fused with a wasp's nest, or a bee's nest or whatever it is, and whenever you, like, whack it, the bees come and attack
What the
the
fuck?
enemy.
That's so good.
It's
That's
really
so
good,
clever.
really good.
I love that. That's a good one. Um, I think for me, in terms of the weapon combo, one of my favorite things is taking really long, like, pole arms and sticking them on
Yeah, that's
one-handed
so good.
weapons, like, sticking them on a boomerang or something, and it's like, "Oh my god, what the hell?" Like, the reach of this is insane, but I can still use a
Mhm.
shield. Um,
I
Doc
actually
in
really
the
like the spears, like, the fact that he can just go, like, crazy fast with the attacks, like some of the soldiers ones, and I like that there's specific buffs on them now, and it highlights what they are in that,
Yeah,
like,
like extra
panel.
sturdy or like when you have low
Yeah.
stamina, like or low hearts, it deals more damage. Like things like that are really cool and like it gives you a real ability to experiment and try different things. Like I had this one that I loved. I got this sword that whenever you swing it, it does a gust of wind. And I attached a sapphire on the end of it, so I would freeze, and then the ice would get blown away. So if I'd hit them near the edge of a cliff, they would just auto die.
Oh,
Like
that's great.
it's awesome. And, like, I love that. I love how much it just encourages you to be like, "Stick this on this thing and see what happens. Like, see how this
Yeah,
is gonna work. Is it gonna work like this?" Or
I found a diamond, and I really wanted to put it on a weapon to see what it did, but it was worth 500, and I was
yeah,
like,
they're
"I
worth
want
so
the
much money.
I want the money.
I
I
found
want the
in the
money because 'cause I'm trying
uh,
to buy a specific set of armor so I can go to a place at the moment."
gotcha. Have you done have you done the side quest with the what are they called? I forget what they're called. They're those little, like, rabbits, and when you hit them in the overworld, they drop rupees, but then there's, like, the frog ones, and
The
when you hit them
bubbles.
the bubbles. Have you done the side quest where you trade those for gear yet?
Yeah, with the 2, like, weird brothers that have
Yeah.
very similar names, and they're so funny, yeah, and
And
he, like,
the
eats
one
it, and
guy
he
was in the
thinks
first game, and now he's got his, like, weird brother who
yeah,
showed up.
and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna eat this, and I'm gonna turn into one. I can feel it working already." It's so
That
funny.
guy, he gives you a piece of armor that lets you when you get hit, you lose rupees instead of health, and that is useful.
Oh, I haven't got that one. He gave me some stupid bokoblin hat, and I was like, "I don't give a shit about this."
It's like the 3rd thing he gives you, I think.
Oh,
Just
I
keep
got
going back.
I got a really good piece of armor from I did this quest, like side quest that was in the sky where you have to do it's like this time challenge where you have to like fall through loops. And I was like, I feel like I'm playing Pilot Wings at this point. But if you
Yeah,
do it
yeah, I know
within
what you're talking
you
about,
do it
yes.
within 35 seconds, you get like a piece of armor that like lets you be more
Yeah,
maneuverable when you're
yeah, it makes your
skydiving.
glides, like, way
Yeah.
faster, it's awesome. That was a fun one. That was, like, a fun thing to do too, I
Yeah.
love that about this game, like, how many just like, "Oh, here's this cute little challenge, and do a thing, you'll get a thing," It's like, "Oh, cool,
It
alright,
opened a
great."
shrine up as well, like a shrine appeared when I did it,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, this is good."
Um, and yeah, to answer the initial question from my perspective about like the fusion being required, Doc, I like it actually. I think in the same way that like folks were kind of originally down on weapon degradation, but then it's like, yeah, but like it encourages you to try different things and like it forces you out of your comfort zone. I like that about this as well, where it's like if you do just use the regular decayed weapons, like they're garbage. So like it kind of forces you to use fusion, right? In a way where I think if the base weapons were just good enough, a lot of people might not engage with it properly because it's like, well, what do I need to do that for? Whereas, like, with this, not only is there all these cool, like, combat applications, there is also, like, the world interaction element where it's like, oh, like I'm I'm in a cave and there's like, ore that I want to mine here. I need a weapon that has a rock on the end of it, right? Or I need a bomb. And
Yeah.
bombs are in short supply. So like that puts you in
No, well,
at
they're not
least
down in the, like, underworld, they're, like, dime a dozen if you go down
I've
there,
heard
like,
that. I haven't hung out there that
there's
much. I got to
so
go down
many,
there
they're,
and
like, every
farm
2
them.
minutes there's some bomb flowers.
I gotta go down there and farm some. Because I, like, never have any. I'm always using them all up. And, like, I like that because I like that now where I used to be like, "Well, I don't love the spears, they're not that useful." Now that you can, like, combine them with things, like, they're way more versatile. So, like, every time I, like when I'm deciding what to keep with me, I usually am like, "Well, I want at least 1 or 2 spears. I need at least 1, sword that has a sledgehammer on it. I need an axe to cut down trees or the trees that attack you. I need, I want a wand or a staff so that I can use magic damage. Like, I
Well, and don't forget that you need some made out of wood so that when it's bloody raining, you're not getting electrocuted.
right, exactly. And, like, I dig that, and I know that in the first game, like, I did those things, but now I feel like I'm doing them more purposefully. It's less just like I take
Yeah.
whatever I find and more it's like, "Okay, like, this is a good weapon, but I already have 2 weapons like this." It's less about having, "Okay, these are all the ones that have the highest stats," and more being like, "Do I have the weapon I want when I end up in a situation where I need it?" Right? If I am, "Oh, I wanna use ice for crowd control," do I have a weapon that's gonna do that? If I need to, use fire. Do I have a weapon that's going to do that?
Well, I'm making sure I have an absolute boatload of arrows at all times, and I like that they're pretty liberal with giving them to you. Like, if you're willing to go into like a bokoblin camp and take down some of the
Oh
little
yeah,
red bokoblins, you smash open those boxes, they're gonna get at least 5 arrows out
dude,
of them.
it was so funny. So the other night, I've been having a lot of like dates with friends where like Sarah and I have friends over. We go to their house and like we all just play Breath of the or Tears of the Kingdom at the same time. And it's like, oh, where are you? What are you doing? And we were playing at my house last week, and I was on the TV, and my friends were like, "How do you have so many arrows?" And I was like, "I don't know. I buy them every time I see a vendor.
Yeah, me
I go and
too.
I break every box. Like I had like 300 arrows, and they're like, I only have 60. I only ever have 50." And it's like, "Oh, I don't know. You gotta be farming these arrows more."
Oh, you need them. It's like they're so useful.
I
Oh,
use them
that's
so often.
yeah, me too. And
Especially now that you have all
unlike
the fusion stuff, like the eyeballs for sniping or like the wings, like I use that stuff so much more than I thought I would.
Me too, and, like, I feel like in Breath of the Wild, I would always save my bomb arrows because they were so expensive, so rare. The same with the fire arrows and the ice arrows and the electric arrows. Like, I'd use the normal ones, but I'd be very, very, stingy when it came to using
Yeah. You
the
wanna make sure you
elemental
have them
arrows.
when you need them.
In this, I'm just like, "Well, I'm gonna pick up some more fire fruit, and it's around anyway,
I
and I know where it
literally
is, and
I
every time the
almost
blood
never
moon
use a
rises."
regular arrow now. Like it's
Yeah, me
almost
too.
always it's on fire. Good.
Which is why I wish I could make arrows and be like, "I'm gonna use a big old stack of fire arrows here," rather than having to do it every single time I fire an arrow. But I'm sure that's an intentional design piece to slow you down. In the same way that I think fusing weapons and having to drop it, I think is also an intentional thing, so you're not in the middle of a battle and it's like, "Quick, let me just fuse this with my, with, like, a sapphire I've got or a ruby," and I'll just, like, whack
They
them,
want you to
and
plan a
they'll be
little
done.
bit, I think.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that has made me not that I disagree with you about the arrows, because we talked about that last week, and I was like, "Yeah, it would be nice if you could, like, make a stack of them or whatever." But I've found myself now just using the most used thing because you can
Me too,
sort,
yeah.
and I just sort by most used, and it's like, well, the top 5 most used are the ones I wanted to use anyway. It's a fire, it's an ice, it's a bomb, it's the,
Mhm.
eyeball, and it's one of the wings,
And the
and it's like,
brightness one for me because I was down in the darkness.
yeah, yeah, you're right. That crept up into my top now because I went under Eventide, and there's, like, a whole, like, cool little side quest down there, and I was like it shot up to the top of my it was, like, the 3rd most used thing now, and it's like, "Oh, shoot, okay.
Mhm.
Gotta
Well, I
spend more
used
time down
that.
there."
And well, down in the darkness, there's a bunch of glow flies you can get as well, which when you cook them into an
Make
elixir
it
will then
glow.
make you glow. And I just put 5 of those in with a monster bit into
It's
like an
not far
elixir.
enough though. It's like it lights you
It's a
up, but
tiny
like
little bit. Yeah, it's a tiny
yeah.
little radius, but I was like, oh, I've got 12 minutes of glow. I'll just wander around the place.
I wanna be able to like get like use it like the mirror shield from like some of the older games and be able to just like pull out a shield and just have it like light in front of me, you know? Like that I
Have you
feel like would
tried
be the
fusing a
ideal.
shield with one of the seeds? I haven't tried that. Maybe
I
that'll work.
tried it and like I tried it early on before I totally understood how things worked and it was just the seed and I was like trying to get someone to hit it to see if it would bloom and then like the shield broke and I was like I don't know if this works. Oh well, and then I just never tried it again, so who knows?
Yeah, there might be a way. So I would think we would have probably heard about it by now if there was.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. So we do have a few more things to talk about here, but before we move on, I do just want to just address something to you, Doc. So I told you this week in the Discord that I would finally, after probably about a year, open up the Joy
I
Cons you
think
sent
it's
me and
more than a
find
year at this
find the
point.
secret message inside. Right? Doc sent me these amazing purple Joy Cons a long time ago. They were my main Joy Cons for a long time until they started drifting, and then now I'm using my white ones. I got a special kit here, Doc. I want to show you. See, this is a screwdriver inside all these different heads, and it has the goofy proprietary shape that you need to open a Joy-Con. So I'm ready to open this son of a gun. Here's the thing, though. Tried opening it before the show so that we'd be ready for this segment. Screws started stripping a little bit. So I'm going to take my time. I'm going to get this sucker open next week. We're going to talk about it on the show. That's my guarantee, okay? I have the tools. It's here. It's happening. I promise you. I just got to get it open safely. I don't want to strip these screws.
No, those screws are a pain in the ass. Ended up, like I said, I think I told you off mic, I ended up replacing mine with Phillips heads because
I'm about to
I opened
buy
my screws and my Joy-Cons so many times to replace those sticks.
I'm about to buy a set of Phillips heads that are this size, and get
If you
some ghillie
buy
kit
the
sinks
if you
because I want to
buy the
try to
ghillie
replace
kit
these and use
set,
them.
if you buy that ghillie kit set with the kit that comes with the tools and everything, you'll get a set of screws in there.
And they're Phillips?
Yes.
Beautiful. All right, cool. I'm gonna buy a couple sets of those and see how that goes. I want
Yeah.
to fix these ones that Doc made me, and I want to fix Sarah's yellow ones.
Mhm.
And we'll see where we're at after that.
Yeah, they're really good. I love those sticks. I'm so glad I did it in preparation for Tears of the Kingdom because I think I just would not have played the game as much as I have if my Joy-Cons were still drifting.
That's why I want to get Sarah's fixed because they're just starting to get messed up and they're not like that bad yet, but I don't want it to, get in
On
the way
mine,
of
it was
her
so
enjoying the
hard.
game.
Like, I would open the menu, like the main Switch menu, and it would be like, and it would like go all the way off to the side, and I'd be like, "This is a pain in the
Yeah.
ass."
I can't remember what game it was where these started finally drifting, the purple ones that Doc sent me. Um, but I remember it being a game where I was like on the edge of a cliff and they drift and the character just ran off the cliff and I was like, "No!
Oh my
Oh
god,
shit!"
that's
Like
gotta be like Xenoblade or something,
it might
hasn't
have
it?
been. Yeah, it might have been. Um, because yeah, it would have had to have been, or I guess it could have been Arceus too, something like that.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I do really want to get those fixed. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. And everybody was making fun of me in the Discord because I'm a noob and I don't know how to open anything. So we'll see what happens. I might have to live stream it for your entertainment. Because I already Wakahula made a joke of just like putting a supercut of every time I say fuck. And while I was trying to open these, I was like, oh yeah, this will be a trip.
They are Pete, they are so easy. It's literally take the
It's
screws
it's
open,
just the shape.
and then
It's
they
not that it's hard to unscrew them. It's just this dumbass proprietary shape when it's like it's not opening. I was like, I know how to use a screwdriver.
mm,
It just wouldn't do it.
then they just make sure when you open it, you're careful because there is a ribbon cable, but they open like a book.
Okay. Good to know.
But there is
Okay.
a ribbon cable that is attached, so
Jesus Christ.
go careful.
So easy.
It is
Yeah.
easy! Oh my god. Like I said, I've replaced my sticks 4 times, 5 times. It's
Look,
ridiculous.
Steve, some people, we just have different types of brains, right? You're always over here like, oh, I wish I could learn how to play an instrument. I'm like, it's easy. You could do it. And you're like, no, I can't. My brain
I
doesn't work
definitely
that.
can't anymore, not
Well,
with my
we'll see.
hands.
We'll see if my brain can learn how to do this. That's going to be an interesting journey.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to watching that.
I think that'll be the interesting thing, right? We do like a live stream of me actually doing it, and then I can make a video where I edit down. Here's how you do it, right? Here's how you do it right, and not like an idiot and all the stuff I did that we cut out. But if you want to watch the whole journey of me struggling, you can watch me do it live on Twitch Creative or whatever. We'll see. We'll see. We'll line that up one of these days. So like I said, we'll follow up on this next week, Doc, and I'll get these puppies opened up. But there was another thing in the Discord that people were very passionate about between last week's episode and this one, Steve. And Stevie Aki wrote in on the Discord and said, I have a podcast question. Where's Link's nipples? And everybody varying a lot of opinions about this, right? Earth Visitor wrote in and said, my wife said Tears of the Kingdom wasn't a $70 game because he didn't even have nipples. Asobi said maybe they were too much for the Switch to handle. Nintendo had to choose nipples or a stable frame rate. And then, of course, as he often does, right? A voice of reason in the community, Wakahula, brilliant man, comes in and he goes, Link never had nipples, gang. Breath of the Wild Link also didn't have nipples. This is
But
not a development.
he did have nipples because Asobi showed us nipples on
That
Twilight
was
Princess Link.
that was in
So,
Twilight
like,
Princess. This is a
what
different Link.
happened what happened from that timeline to this timeline that
I
he
can't
lost
say, but this
nipples?
is a different timeline. It's a different Link, you know?
Is that the only other Zelda game where we've seen him topless? Like, maybe canonically he doesn't have nipples, and Twilight Princess is the rare case where
I
he
think
does have
Skyward Sword
nipples.
would be the only other one I could think of where that would even be a
Does he have
possibility.
nipples in Skyward Sword?
We're gonna find out, Steve. We're gonna find out.
Because if he doesn't have nipples, then maybe, like, maybe Hylians don't have nipples, and, like, Twilight Princess is just weird, and
That's
they
an
gave him
alternate
nipples
universe.
for no reason. But the mod that, like, Wakahula showed for the nipples in Breath of the Wild, they look like little pepperonis that they
Steve,
shoved on him.
I googled Skyward Sword Link nipples. The first result from YouTube is why doesn't Link have nipples? It's just a YouTube video. That's the only title. No context.
Oh my god.
So I don't know.
There's gotta be a picture of him. Oh, I've yeah, okay. I typed Skyward Sword Link topless and I got some
Bud, come on. Of course
unsavory
that's what
links.
happened. Of
I
course
should not
that's
have
what
done
happened.
that. That was
Where do you
really
think that
bad.
was going? Oh my god. That's so funny.
That was not a good idea.
Oh, okay. You know what? This is interesting. I found a quote from an article from automationmedia.com. So I don't know. I don't know this website, so grain of salt. But they're saying that here's a screenshot. Here's a screenshot. Okay. The first time that Link was depicted with nipples was in, and this is according to Thomas Game Docs, was in Majora's Mask. When he puts on the Goron mask, he has nipples.
Yes, I've just read something that says most species in Hyrule, and this is on Zelda Universe.
Mhm.
Most species in Hyrule are shown not to have nipples, and the only creatures that do are Gorons.
But interestingly enough, it says here the Goron NPCs in the game do not actually have nipples themselves. So that would mean that Goron Link's nipples are not characteristic of the Goron race in Majora's Mask, but of Link himself, is what it says.
Very weird.
And then it
Very
says,
weird.
interestingly, in Twilight Princess, Link practically flaunts his nipples. Showing off the him with the no chest thing. Yeah. So I don't know. The
I'm gonna have
mystery.
to watch that video. Why does Link not have nipples? And if it doesn't answer the question, Pete, I need you to go and do some research and some work to find out the answer to this question. Because why does Mario have nipples but Link doesn't? That's what I want to know.
I don't know.
But then
I don't.
Mario has nipples in some games, but not in others.
And not in
They
others.
went away for a while, and
Yeah.
then they came back for
That
Odyssey.
was a big thing in Odyssey. It was like, oh, they're back. And it's like, okay. So I don't know. Gang,
Wouldn't it have been weird if he didn't have nipples in Breath of the Wild, but he did in this game?
it would be.
But that might pay some credence to Asobi's theory that maybe it's performance related, and they couldn't get it to run on that Wii U port, but on Switch we've got the extra power.
This
Maybe
was
we're gonna
where
have to wait. We have to wait for the Switch Pro or the Switch
we
2
need the
to.
digital foundry breakdown here. So how does this work, gang? So yeah, I don't know. Again, what we're learning here is that this is a mystery that continues to deepen, right? So I would say the truth is out there. Keep asking questions. Keep looking. Keep shaking those trees, and we'll find it out as a community. We'll understand it one day,
Yeah,
like all
I
of the
think
great mysteries in
if
the world.
anyone can solve it, it's the flip screen community.
That's what I always say. You know. So here's the thing, Steve. I was gonna close out this episode with us playing a little game that Wakahula found. He wrote in
Okay.
over on the Discord and said, "Hey, look at this! I oh my god, look at what I found!" And it's this game called Hyrule Guesser, where the game gives you a random screenshot, and then you have to guess where it takes place in the world of Zelda. I'm confident you and I will do terrible at this,
I have done terribly at this. Maybe we should save it for next week and, like, do it
and that's
on
what
the
I'm
show.
saying. I think we save it for next week. We'll see how we do. Give us a little chance to try to practice, flex our muscles a little bit. I don't think any amount of practice is going to make us better. You and I, not the
But
most.
you get points for how close you get. So I feel like if we can both do the same challenges, and I'd like to see if we can, then because there's, like, challenges and you can, like, set. If we can get the same challenges,
Then we should
then
be
we'll
good.
see how many points we get, and we can see who's the superior ultimate gamer,
I'm in with
and
that. I'm in with
it's gonna
that.
be
So I
me.
think for next week, we'll get that lined up. We'll head to head, see who's the ultimate champion, and of course, your boy over here. Some used to winning, used to being a victor, used to being a champion.
We need, like, a different trophy for this. We need,
Mm.
like a, Master Sword
Oh, well, see,
trophy
this is
or
different,
something.
right? This isn't for this. This is just
Oh, yeah, yeah.
winners win, right? So
Okay.
I'm my assumption is that I'll probably do pretty well,
Mm,
but we'll
sure.
see. We'll see. And that's
I
the fun. I want to get more. I want there to be more awards and more belts and trophies and things for us to pass back and forth.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way I'm going to become a multiple title holder, which is my dream, right? Of course, I want to be able to walk out, have the Embassy trophy, have the Flip Screen Games World Champion belt, right? The heavyweight champion. Um,
I think it needs to be, do you know what the Ashes are for cricket?
no,
So they've got a trophy, and it's a little urn of ashes, and it's from their first ever match, England versus Australia, where they burnt the wickets, and
okay.
then they put them in
What do they
that little
burn? I was like, what do they burn all the players that played in the
no, no,
first
no,
game?
they put them in that urn, and I feel like we need to do something like that, we're gonna burn a Joy-Con or something, and, like, we put that in, like, a little
We
trophy, and we
burn a
send that
copy
back
of
and
Tears of
forth.
the Kingdom.
Yeah, let's do it. Do you know, when I was doing before we, wrap up, when I was playing Hyrule Guesser, I was like, "How do people play this game with the pro HUD?" Genuinely, I would severely struggle to play this game with the pro HUD turned on
You got
because
to
there's
know. You got to
nothing.
know it.
There is Yeah, you've gotta look at landmarks, and that's how I played Firewatch when I played it. I turned off all that HUD, and I just used the, like, landmarks and the built-in compass.
My wife
I
could do
would
it.
I'd be
She could
impossible at
navigate
this.
that map without any of the assistance. I'm very
Well,
confident.
we need to get her involved then. I wanna know how she does with the challenges when we do it. She could be the control. How
I think she
terrible
would
we are.
wipe the floor with both of us.
Yeah,
Is
most
what I think
likely,
would
yeah.
happen. She knows that map so well. Like, there's been so many moments where she's like, "Oh my god, did you see like this character?" I'm like, "I don't remember that character. What was there?" And then she tells me who they are, and I'm like, "Oh right, right. Yeah, I remember that guy." Oh, anyway. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of Nintendo Noise. Thanks everybody who wrote in with their thoughts on Tears of the Kingdom. If you want to write in with your thoughts on the game or anything else we discussed on this or any other episode of Nintendo Noise, or if you want to hear us talk about something else next week, guess what? There's a lot of ways you can control what gets talked about on the show. Go and join our Discord. Come and join the Nintendo Noise channel where you can write in every week. We've also got a Nintendo channel and the Tears of the Kingdom channel right now. The Nintendo side of the Discord is popping off. So come and be a part of that conversation. Write in with your thoughts. Let us know how you're getting on with the game, or write in with a main topic that you'd like to hear us discuss that's outside the realm of Tears of the Kingdom, because I'm sure somebody in the audience isn't playing this game and would love to hear us talk about something else. So now's your chance. Write in questions at flipscreen.games. However you choose to get involved and get in touch, we thank you for tuning in for another episode of Nintendo Noise. Remember, flipscreen.games. That's the website. However you want to get involved, get in touch, join the community, keep the conversation rolling. You can do it right over there. So, for the crew, I've been Pete. He's been, I keep doing it backwards, buddy. I keep doing it. He's been Steve. There we go. Till next
Max
time.
is over there somewhere. He's over
Max is
there.
off. Max is in Hyrule, right? This guy, he's like, oh,
Yeah.
I gotta take a week off. I gotta go to work. I'm like, bullshit. He's sitting at home playing Tears of the Kingdom, and we all know
Yeah.
it. We all
Yeah.
know it. So you go
100%.
at Maxell right on Twitter and tell him to get back on the fucking show. All right. Until next time, we love you guys. We'll see you next week.